Okay. Hey,
Okay.
Zach.
Hey. All right.
Oh my God, I was like, so it rained here, and probably that's the reason why earlier there was a little issue. But whenever we are doing something really awesome, the universe supports us just a little more. So all in divine timing.
All right. Perfect. Wonderful. Yeah. So yeah, happy
Great.
to chat. Happy to be here.
And thank you so much for agreeing to do this live.
Mhm.
I do remember a long time back when I did get in touch with you. I was going through something. So, guys, just a little flashback on how I know Zach. A couple of years back, I was going through something, and at that time, Insta wasn't that popular, but Facebook was, and that's where I found him. He was really helpful and very, very supportive in really giving those tips, tricks, which really helped me in getting through at that time. So now, in fact, that pushed me into the work that I'm doing today also. And I did
Perfect.
get inspired by this soul over here. I
Thank you.
requested him, I reached out to him if we could do this, and he was very humble and he accepted it. So, once again, thank you so much, Zach.
Thank you. You're very kind. I really appreciate it.
Excellent. Okay, Zach. So shall we begin? And guys, in the
Sure.
meanwhile, so we have a couple of questions that we collected from our feed. In the meanwhile, if you guys have any question related to law of attraction, related to how to make things happen for you, Zach here is an expert on relationships and dating as well, and how to attract the perfect
Hello.
relationship towards you. Also, how to make a relationship much more happier. And if you want, you can go and check out after this his Instagram as well. He has a lot of stuff on his feed. So if you have any such question, do type in the comment section. And Zach, in the meanwhile, can we begin with the questions that we discussed?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay, great. So the first question is coming from somebody who wants to ask that how to attract a stable and successful job as well as a relationship towards you.
Okay. All
So
right.
what would
Great.
you say to that, Zach?
So yeah, maybe we'll take this in pieces. So they said a stable and successful, career or job. So definitely for what you the main point that they put is stable and success. So those are emotions, those are states that you want to make familiar to you, right? So a lot of times when we don't have a job that we really want, when we feel like we're struggling a bit, it's hard to find the emotional state of stability or success. But that's what you kind of want to start aiming for. You want to start seeing yourself as someone who has stability, start feeling it first. You want to start conditioning yourself before.
Right,
And sometimes the outside will not be a reflection to how you want it to be yet. But you have to change yourself first. So
right.
all of this work, and as you know, and definitely chime in with tips, and I'm sure you have a lot of great things for people as well. Um, so how do we start feeling like we're already there? How do we start conditioning ourselves for already being in the type of job that we want? One thing, if you do have a job already, I kind of have a cool story. I used to
Zach,
have,
if you could,
Mhm.
sorry, if you
Sure,
could be a little louder or put the speakerphone a little nearer to your
sure.
mouth, that'll be great.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay.
Yes.
So, so one thing that I did, a little bit of story about me. This is many years ago. I used to have a job that I really hated. It was really rough. I was working in in New York City, one of the busiest restaurants, and it was a brutal place to work. And I was like, okay, I'm going to really change my life. I'm going to really put this to the test. How do I, and I've been there for almost 2 years, and I was like, okay, I'm really going to use this stuff. I'm going to do something radical. Okay.
Right.
So I was like, for 30 days, I'm going to love every second of being here. It's going to be like the happiest, most wonderful place I've ever been. And, it's like the opposite of what most people do, right? Did you notice? Most people are like, oh, my job, I don't like my job, I don't like what I do. But what if we completely flip that on its head? And I was like, okay, for 30 days, no matter what happens, I'm going to be super joyful. So,
Yes.
so I would have like, you know, one of the customers yelling at me, and I would be like, nope, I'm going to stay super joyful. And then the manager would, you know, be very angry at me, and I'd be like, nope, you know, I'm just going to be joyful. And for 30 days to the day later, just from doing this, and not only did you just feel so much better, and I spent like an hour before going in, kind of like mentally preparing myself every day, like, okay, I'm really going to do this. And 30 days later, I got a job that paid twice as much.
Wow.
I only had to work like 2 to 3 days a week to cover my bills. The level of, and it all just dropped in my lap. I didn't do anything. It just like came right to me. I ended up working with my best friends. And it was like 10% of the stress or less. And even right when I started, they're like, hey, you know what? Actually, we don't need you for a little while. Here's 2 or 3 weeks off before I even got started. And it's a totally different way of looking at this. How can we create how we want to feel first, right? How can
Exactly.
we, yeah,
And this is something which I think that when we are in the vortex of things, like when we're in the middle of the thing, it is such a healthy reminder, Zach, that you've given that
thank
the
you.
best way to feel that, like, you know, that which you want to be is to feel, which is to feel joy in, even if the boss is saying something which you don't want to hear, or the client is saying something you don't want to hear.
Yeah,
Because instead of focusing on what is happening, let's focus on what we really want, and which is
right.
what we want, this stability, we want this happiness, and we want that joy. In fact, somebody on the feed asked that, were you able to do that? But the point is, if you're very stubborn on it, if you're really stubborn on what you want in life,
Yeah,
I guess you will be able to do that, and which is what exactly what you were able to do, Zach, isn't
yeah,
it? That
thank you.
you would,
Yeah.
you really wanted that joy in life.
I did, yeah, and I wanted more freedom. I wanted more flexibility, and I got all that. And so, you know, if you don't have a job right now, something you can kind of do the same thing, right? You just
Hmm.
have to do it in a different way. You want to feel like, you know, that things are flowing to you. You want to feel like that you can be successful. You can find the success when you wake up in the morning. You can say, okay, what does it feel like to be successful? What does it feel like to have stability in my life, right? What does it feel like to be more free? You know, what does it feel like to have what I really want?
Hmm.
And it's a practice. It's something that you got to get good at.
Habit,
But
yeah, a
yeah,
habit
it's a
that you have to
habit.
build up with. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But if you're constantly being like, where's my stupid job? And, you know, when is this going to be over? And, you know, if you're complaining, you're just going to get more to complain about. And if you can see yourself how you want to be, you'll have a lot more success moving in that direction. Yeah. And one thing you can do too is you can write down a little list to yourself. How do I want to feel in a job?
Hmm.
You know, write down like 5 emotions you want to feel. Do you want to feel passion at your job? Do you want to feel happy at your job? Do you want to feel appreciation at your job? You know, do you want to love your job? So many people say they love their job, but a lot of people don't actually feel that feeling of love toward their job. I do. I'm
Right.
one of the lucky people who is able to do that. Yeah, and I really love what I do. But we all can. We all have the ability to do that. And so, yeah, write down those 5 things you want to feel, and then spend time feeling those often. You can,
Right.
you know, wake up and be like, okay, I want to feel that freedom. So you spend a few minutes feeling that freedom. I want to feel that passion. So you can feel like, okay, what does it feel like to be passionate at a job? And you start conditioning yourself for it, and it creates a confidence in you. So when you go in for an interview, people can feel that you know that you can do this job and you can knock it out of the park, and everybody's going
Right.
to want to hire you. Yeah,
Right. And as they say that your vibe attracts your tribe, and the vibe will
right.
also attract the job. So Zach,
Yeah,
would you
love that.
suggest that we can spend probably, if not, because you know, like when you're in the middle of things, and at times people don't even know what they want.
Right.
Uh, if they want to feel the passion, they think that they want to feel passionate, but they don't know what that feeling is really. Like, how does one feel passionate? Because since their childhood, they have never had any experience of what does being in passion feels like, or what does being in love feel like, or what does it mean when you really think something is really close to you and you've achieved it. What does that even feel like? So in
Right.
such cases, what would you suggest?
Well, in those cases, you really only have one option, and that's not a bad option. And you got to imagine it. You know, you got to use a little imagination. Okay, if I really did feel passion, like what would that feel like? And you can just ask yourself, what would that feel like if I felt like real passion for this? What would it feel like to feel more happiness? What would it feel like to feel in love? And well, sometimes also, if it's so unfamiliar, you got to kind of work your way up a little bit, right? You can't maybe go from being depressed to being like super joyful. And a lot of people try to make that jump and it's impossible. But if you can
Yeah,
go from depression to, frustration, that's moving in the right direction, to feeling a little more hopeful, that's moving in the right direction, to, feeling, and then you can start feeling a little bit more of that passion. You can start feeling, you get little glimpses of it. I kind of say it's like if you can find one little strand, like like pulling on like a part of your shirt, you find one little piece and you keep pulling on it, more is going to come out. And so if you can
right.
find one positive emotion and just a little nugget of something that feels good, just keep pulling on it, keep pulling on it, keep pulling on it, you're going to get more and more, and all of a sudden it's going to build in amplitude. It's going to increase in power. And
Beautiful.
so, yeah, thank you. And so, so that's kind of the practice. We want to get good at creating positive emotions so that we're already right there. So when we want to create passion, we're like, passion, what does that feel like? Passion feels exciting. It feels energetic. It feels vibrant. It feels fun. Passion feels like, can't wait to do this. It feels like looking forward to this, right? And then you can kind of get a taste of it and you get it going. And as you keep pulling on that thread, you get more and more.
And
And
then sooner or
yeah,
later, you become that. And
absolutely.
I guess you can also learn from people around you. You know, who is that one person whom you would find that is passionate or has the love in life which they're looking for, and
Yeah.
then in the beginning try and imitate that, or from movies which you watch where they've totally shown passion. So you can imitate that also in the beginning. As they say, in the beginning we can fake it if you have no blueprint of it. If you just absolutely don't know that, how does it even feel like?
Yeah, you just start feeling into it. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and it may feel a little tricky at first, but I think people who actually try to do it and sit down to do it,
Hmm.
and you can message me too. I have more tips. I have all kinds of new stuff coming out all the time to help people, and I know you'll happily help a lot of people as well do that. So it's not like anyone here, is devoid of options. I'm sure we're
Yes.
here to help a lot of people.
Yes,
Yeah,
guys, I have to say Zach here is really helpful. I mean, that's exactly how I know you. Like, with all those followers that you had on Facebook, I never expected that if I write to you, you will revert to me also. But you did. And that makes the other person who's going through something feel very heard. You know, at times you just want
good.
to be heard. So,
Yeah,
I clearly remember that part. So, guys, he's very approachable. You can write to him,
thank you.
and you can write to me also, depending upon where we are connected with. So, don't feel yourself being alone in this time. So, great. And Zach, what about this time? You know, this time is very unique, something
Of
which
course.
none of us have ever experienced before. Hopefully, we'll
Right?
never have it again. So,
Okay. Yeah.
how do we keep up with the law of attraction? And we have certain things that we want to manifest in life, but then
Sure.
there is so much of the opposite of it that we see around, and probably even more stronger now in comparison to any other time. So
Sure.
any tips for this period, specifically this one?
Definitely. So, so many things I want to say. Well, one thing, I think the first and maybe most important thing is, and this can help us a tremendous amount because this time more than ever, it's so important to focus your own minds and not be caught up in what other people are doing or saying or whatever. And instead, we really have to have um, our own thoughts about things. So, the whole world is kind of caught up in this stream of thinking about things in a certain way. There's a lot of negativity, a lot of the media and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But what we have to do is instead of pushing against it or being like, no, I'm not gonna, be sucked into this, what we want to do is just kind of let it pass us by. And we just want to let it pass us by. We don't want to get swept up into it. And we want to always, this is a better time than ever to learn how to control your mind and learn how to
Hmm.
focus. And so, yeah, we just want to let it pass us by. Let us pass us by. Not get sucked in. Don't push against it either. It's just, it's what we want to do. A lot of us who want to be informed. So we just want to spend as much time, as little time as possible, just getting the information that we need and then get out, and then get back to our happiness. Get in, get the little bit we need, get out, get focused back into our happiness. And yeah, this is a great time to kind of train a bit, train your mind
Yeah,
to
because actually we can't even do much about it, right? Except sitting at our home and keeping safe.
right. And so so I think this is actually a wonderful time too, because this is a time where everything is kind of coming to a standstill. It's coming to a stop. It's making us go deeper into ourselves and think about who we are, what we want to do, what do we want our life to be like. And how many times in life are we forced to really stop? And I think that can help awaken a lot of people and, help us remember our own happiness. And also it's good not to follow everyone else. We don't want to follow everyone. We want to follow our own path, our own drummer, our own way that we want to live. And
This
that's
is so
mhm.
this is so amazing, Zach, that what
Thank
you
you.
are saying absolutely echoes with what I have been saying over here.
Great.
And which is, instead of looking at outside, look inside, because you've been given that time which you probably had never had in the past, and maybe who
Yeah.
is to know that it should never come in the future again. Like all this plethora of time that we have, because we are not as mobile as we used to be or could have been earlier, and plus the distractions are less. We are not going to work, a lot of things. I mean, suddenly it's almost, as you say, time is relative. So
Mhm.
it's suddenly as if time has opened up to us, that now
Absolutely.
will you do it, kind of thing.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah. And really, yeah, really well said. Also, kind of a cool history lesson to give people a little more hope. So, in Europe, they had, probably one of the biggest plagues or sicknesses was like the Black Plague.
Hmm.
But what followed the Black Plague right after was the Renaissance. And
Hmm.
a lot of people don't realize that. And and it was born out of a time of a lot of contrast where things were very different than people wanted them to be. And but collectively, as a whole, as a world, this experience is going to push us way ahead. And so, yeah, and it's going to be a really exciting time coming up. A lot of things are going to open up. The Renaissance, everyone was wealthier, more prosperity, a huge amount more art and culture. Things got better for most everyone. A lot of the tyranny or the
Hmm.
hardship people were facing, all of that really opened up in a huge way, and it became one of the most prosperous times in history, and I think that's going to come for us too. And so if we can start believing that, I think that can be very helpful.
Yes. And even astrologically, I mean, again, once again, you've nailed it, because the shadow planet, one of the shadow planets, is in the sign of Shiv, and which basically in Indian mythology deals with destruction, chaos before the silence. Like something
Yeah,
has to go, and which might not feel easy, but for
right.
something prosperous to make way for it. So,
Absolutely.
this is like a cyclic thing which has happened. It's almost like pulling back of the arrow for it to focus and then
To
be
fly.
sent on its
Exactly.
target.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a beautiful analogy. Yeah. And
right.
yes, absolutely. So we're going to break down a little bit, but we're going to break through. Yeah. All right.
Yes.
Great.
And I just want to say that everybody who is typing in, I am seeing this. Thank you so much for all the love that you are showing.
Yeah. Thank you so
And we will
much.
pick up those. We will pick up those questions also.
Mhm.
But just that a couple of them had written to us earlier, so we are just picking up those as well. Maybe you have your answer in one of those. And so, Zach, how about relationship? I guess we can use the same thing that we are using for the job to stabilize
Yes.
our relationships as well.
hmm So yeah. Oh, and I love what someone wrote here. Every adversity brings um, benefits with equal or greater value. I think that's really beautiful. And oh yeah, and happy to share. So relationships. Well, relationships, yes, we can use a lot of the same things. Sometimes I take a little bit different tact, but you actually can do the same exercise. You know, write down. I love giving this to people. If you can write down the 5 emotions you want to feel in a relationship, and you start feeling them often, something will come that reflects that. So, say in a relationship, you want to write down. You can do it right now. You can write down,
Are you
what,
reading my mind? Because that's the next sentence I was going to say. I'm not even kidding.
yeah, you can do it right now. Why not? Yeah, you can write down the 5 core emotions you want to feel in a relationship. Do you want to feel, okay, so what are some examples? What would you say? You know?
Well, I think in a relationship, I would
hmm
like to feel very, very heard.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you want to feel what? You want to feel love. You want to
Yeah.
feel,
Taken care of, heard.
uh-huh, uh-huh. Maybe passion, maybe adventure.
Also
Um,
support for what I'm doing.
yeah, yeah, of course. And so, yeah, you just want to write down the 5 emotions that really resonate with you that you want to feel. And if you can start making that a part of who you are, you make that familiar to you, you're feeling it often, something has to reflect that feeling. Something has to come back. It's always worked for me every single time. I've been doing this for 14 years, something like that, and yeah, it's always worked. Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing, Zach, which I have started to do, and now it has become almost like, my second skin to me, is that
hmm
as much as possible, I've started to tell people I love you. Specifically
That's
with those
beautiful.
who've been, whom I've been, who I know will support that love also. So, how many times in our life, be it to our friends, to our family, do we say I love you? We are in fact hesitant of using that word, love
We are.
itself.
We
Yeah,
are.
because it has been defined so far in the subconscious, it has been defined as only one thing. But I was doing
Yeah.
a research on love and I realized that it could be a plethora of things. It is a feeling which can go from romance to, just the basic unconditionality of
hmm
it and how beautiful it is if we keep spreading that. People
hmm
earlier used to get surprised that they're listening or they're getting a message from me saying, I love you. But
Absolutely.
then they started to
Yeah.
reciprocate, and I could see that love and that support coming back
Exactly.
to me in my life
hmm
multitudes, really
100%. 100%.
multitudes.
It's true. I remember maybe 10 years ago, I was like, I never really get any compliments. And I was like, I never really get any compliments. I'm like, people really just don't do that for me. And I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm
Are
just
you
going to
kidding
start
me, Zach?
complimenting
That cannot be
people.
true.
It was true. I swear, and I didn't get any, and I used to be a very negative person, a very happy person now, but
Hmm.
I wish you guys could see how much of a transformation that has made for me. It can make for all of you guys and
Right,
more. But
right.
yeah, I was like, I never get any compliments, and I'm like, there's so many wonderful people around me that I don't compliment either, because I didn't give out any compliments, and so I didn't really
Hmm.
get any back. So I just started giving out compliments, appreciating people, and I noticed everyone around me was needing and wanting that appreciation. Except nobody felt like the authority to do so. So yeah,
Right.
like you said, it's so wonderful if you can start telling people you love them, if you can start appreciating them, if you can be putting that out, that state, that energy, you will, like you said, and very well said, you will get that back for sure, and it'll multiply coming back. Yeah, beautiful.
And beginning with yourself. So
Yeah.
I also often ask people to stand in front of the mirror, of course, say I love you multiple times, and also clap and applause for yourself because there is so much each one of us go through. We all are dealing with our emotions. A few of us have done psychology, but still we don't understand at times how to deal with them. But every day you are handling yourself in this period also. I think we all deserve an applause.
Yes, we do. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're doing much better than we think. And we have so much
Yes.
more of an ability to do wonderful and great things in the world. And if we can just start appreciating and seeing that in people, and seeing it in ourselves, like you said, it's going to be a huge game changer. And that's the best possible thing that could come out of all of this is more self-love, more appreciation for other people. And we're seeing that already in a lot of ways. I see a lot of people
Absolutely.
helping people. I see a lot more unity. We're coming together and creating and doing things that have never been done before.
Also a lot of
And
understanding of each other and
yeah,
all of our emotional states, and because for the first time people have started to accept that that there is something which needs to be worked within them emotionally as
yeah,
well. So if there is something which needs to be worked in me, it could be that in the other person also it needs to be worked on, so let's
of
not
course.
judge, that
Of
kind of
course,
thing.
yeah. And that it doesn't help anything, right? Judging other people, it feels bad to do it. If just for the reason of just it feeling crappy to judge someone else, and also when we're judging other people, we are often judged. It's like a lot of people who are usually scared of public speaking or, sometimes can be judging or critical of themselves or other people. And so, yeah, we got to stop putting that out and we find more confidence. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
wonderful.
Right. Okay, Zach, can we move to the next question?
Sure, absolutely.
So this is a very interesting question, and Zach, let me know what you think about it. So there's a lady who has asked how to get unblocked from someone's phone.
Well, how to get unblocked from someone's phone. Well, here's what I would suggest. In the relationship question, this sounds like probably a love question. This is probably someone is blocked, someone they really care about, right? So this is an interesting question. Well, one, what we need to do is focus on so many times when we separate, we from someone, whether it be a breakup or of any kind, it can even be in a family or something like that. We often will, how to describe it? We often are angry at them for being angry at us, or we often will, the way we feel about them will be reflected toward the way they feel about us. And so as we can kind of love and bless someone wherever they are, it kind of
Hmm.
unlocks that for us. So,
Right.
yeah, there's a great book called The Game of Life and How to Play It. And this woman had a breakup, and the guy left her, and she was so angry at him. She's like, "How could he leave me when I love him so much?" And in the
Hmm.
book, the author said, "You're not loving that person. You're angry at that person. That's so far from the state of love about that
Right.
person." And so why don't you love and bless him wherever they are and just let them go, and that tension goes away, and that repelling, that pushing away
Right.
goes away. And what happened is one day he came back, and a week later asked that person to marry them, and which
Wow.
was, yeah, which is pretty powerful. And there's a gap of time between them coming back because it took them a while to feel that love for that person and to just let that be, and then some more time in order for that to create. So it's kind of a wonderful story. If we can just love and bless them where they are and appreciate the essence of that person, either
And the
something
free will
like it.
choice of that
Mhm.
person. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and so if we can feel the essence of that um, person and appreciate it, we will get either that back or something greater or something equal, and we
Yes.
can't lose. So yeah, we got to focus on that love.
Yeah. And probably the blocking has, I mean, as they say that nothing which happens is without a reason.
Yeah,
So this person has just become a conduit for this particular person to learn how to give out love
I
and
love that.
blessings
Yes,
unconditionally,
yes, I love that. Yeah, very well said. Yeah, beautiful.
right? So if you are hearing this, I mean, Zach has given out a very beautiful story out there. So just bless that person out from your heart. Like you can even imagine this person in pink light as far as energy work is concerned. And do honor this person's free will choice also. But as he said that once you do this, sooner or later you would see some mellowing down, either in this situation or through some other situation in your life. So all the best for that if you're
Yeah.
watching.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
The next question is, Zach, how to detach from the outcome when you want to manifest something?
Well, okay, this is a great question, and yeah, so we don't want to, because there's always going to be a time gap too. There's always going to be a time gap. What I do, one little cool tip that I do is just start planting so many seeds that you kind of forget what you planted. That's one little trick. If you're constantly every day, you're putting new things out there that you want to create, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna, and then you just kind of let yourself forget about it. That's one little trick. Another is when you're doing a really good job of finding the feeling of something, you're not going to feel like you're without it.
Mm.
So, a lot of times people will be like, well, where is it? And so if you're constantly putting new things out there, you're creating new things to come, you will definitely have you're putting a lot of seeds in the ground, and so if you can really find the emotion, the core emotion of it, and you're feeling it often, you're not going to feel without it. You're going to feel like it's there. Like you almost don't want it to come for a little while because you're enjoying the feeling of it. The best part of creating is before you even have it, because it's pure and clean in your mind before there's a physical, tangible thing about it. Once it shows up, then there's going to be minor issues, minor problems, no matter how small they are. Maybe you really want a camera, but then now that camera takes up a tiny bit of space. So there's a little bit of contrast in everything. And so we want to really enjoy the process of creating, because that's really the best part. It's so fun. You can feel so much joy and passion for something, and you don't even have to have it yet. And actually, by the time it shows up, it'll be great, but it won't feel like it felt before, because that real juice, that's in the creating. And that's the most fun part. Yeah.
Yeah. And so much you would have learned on the way. Like,
Yeah.
when it comes to what you want to manifest, there's so much you would have learned on the way while you were sowing that seed also.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, one trick that you gave out was that one way is to sow a seed and then sow other seeds also, so that
just be sowing a lot of things, so you're not so worried about the one.
correct.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
and this helps you in distracting, not just that, but it's not like an unhealthy distraction. It is something which is helping you create multiple things at a time as well.
Right.
And
Right.
plus, I guess you guys can learn something new, or know that if you are a creator, you are anyways creating, and it will happen in its divine timing,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Exactly. Another thing too is, and this is important, releasing resistance. And it's something that a lot of people don't quite talk about or realize how important it is. If there's something in your life that you're really struggling with creating it, you've tried a lot of things and you're able to create other things, but for some reason this particular subject is difficult. It's important to release resistance on that subject, but we want to focus so much on the releasing the resistance. We have to create the allowing or the alignment. And so you need to feel better and better about that subject. Sometimes you can kind of like test yourself, like, okay, how do I actually feel about this subject? Am I like a 2 out of 10 emotionally? And how can I move that up? If it's something you've wanted for a long time, but it doesn't seem to come, if you kind of really go deep within yourself and be honest, like, okay, what number am I? Where do I actually feel? It's probably in a bit lower of a place than we realize. And if we can kind of work that up and spend more and more time in a more aligned place about it, it's a game changer. It's huge.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. And the other thing is that you also get into the flow. Like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think one thing which you mentioned really amazing, and which we all often tend to forget, is that enjoy the journey and concentrate at each and every step as to what are you learning in this journey. So while the
Absolutely.
final goal is, say, in a relationship, that this person comes to me, or this job comes to me, or that you become a millionaire, etc., whatever it is, that what are those steps that you are taking towards that? Enjoy those steps as well, which could deal with learning something new, which could deal with just upgrading yourself as a person, like how am I better than as I say that, how am I better in the last breath than the last breath that I took. And then finally, when the thing actually happens for you, it doesn't feel unreal, right? Like as soon as, if still something feels unreal and exciting to you, I think that is also something which is a blockage to manifestation, because that unrealness or excitement is basically you subconsciously going, I got something out of my turn. Is that so, Zach?
Yeah, so the excitement can be good, but the when it doesn't feel real, that's definitely a lack of expectation, and
Right.
that lets you know about a lot of resistance. So if it doesn't feel real, if it feels like far out there or hazy, that then it often will not come, and our expectation is very important. And so that would be the resistance that we're kind of talking about. As we kind of release resistance, we start seeing ways we can start. It's like it's totally blind to us when we have a lot of resistance to it, of how it can happen. And obviously, what we don't want to do is get too caught up in how it will happen. But if we have a lot of resistance to it, it's going to feel kind of out there. It's not really going to
Right.
happen, like a pipe dream, or yeah. And a lot of people feel that way about winning the lottery, and so that's why so few people kind of do, because
Exactly.
it feels like the odds are very low. We have a lot of resistance to it. But yeah, I would instead focus on prosperity, and people will have usually less resistance to it, right? How can I feel prosperous? How can I feel more abundant? And as we feel more abundant, our life becomes more abundant. Yeah.
Absolutely. And when it comes to money, as there was this trick which Jim Carrey gave out really a long time back, that he used to write checks to himself of his first movie, and then he used to paste it around, and he used to expect that. So I think which also gave way to having realistic, begin with small steps, begin with such that they do not, as you said, that they do not feel unrealistic, or there is no resistance to it, something which you know
Right.
that you can expect, and then build upon it, one by one.
Right. That's
Or,
true. And yeah, that's true. And actually, Jim Carrey started this stuff very young. I, you
oh
know,
yes.
I heard like as a kid, he had this great story about how he was, one of his teachers like taught him this. It was a substitute teacher, and he was imagining having this one particular bicycle. And because she told him like, what I do is I imagine what I want and I give appreciation for it before it comes. And so he's like a little kid, and he's like, okay, I'm going to do that. So he really wanted this one bicycle. And he's like, I'm going to imagine having this exact bicycle. And he was appreciating, he was loving for it. And something happened where there was a drawing, and
Hmm.
like a little at school lottery, and they were giving away the exact bike. And he actually didn't even put his name in. His friend put his name in for him. He wasn't even there, and it came up his name, and it was the exact bike
Wow.
that he wanted. And so even from since way back then, he started practicing it, and then he got bigger jobs and bigger jobs and bigger jobs. And then yeah, he wrote himself a check for $10 million, labeled like a year or 2 years later, and he ended up making that for Dumb and Dumber. Pretty very cool
Yeah,
story.
I think his life is a perfect example so far of not only just how to make things happen for you, but also later how to deal with it. Like, now he's become really subtle, and there are a lot of his quotes which I really relate with. Plus, the choice of movies that he has made, there was this one on Yes, and then I'm forgetting the name. Recently, only I saw it again. The Truman Show and The Mask. I mean, there are these movies with very deep messages.
Yeah, or endless sunshine of the spotless minds.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
yeah,
How can I forget that?
that's right. Yeah, he was able to do. I mean, he can kind of do whatever he wants, and now he's actually like one of the richest people in comedy,
Yeah,
and he can just
absolutely.
do whatever he
Yeah.
likes.
And even if you look at it, the Mask as a movie, I think it's an entire case study on how a human being can live his or her life being something which the person is not, but has to be because of the circumstances, the people around. But then when he or she puts on another mask, irrespective of what's going on in your life, you'll behave a different way. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course, they made a comedy out of it, but I think it's a movie which has a message in each and every scene.
Yeah, I think that's true, you know, and most of us can. That's the thing when the mask had such confidence, and so because they had such confidence and belief in themselves, and were very taking everything very lighthearted and easy, they were able to do incredible things, and
Right.
we can too. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, that's what Vinita has written here that I have, so what we do, so I have this WhatsApp group called Sacred Space. So we are a couple of us who have got together and we've been interacting for a while now. So every month we have decided that we will watch a movie and then we will discuss the messages of that movie. So this one, the Jim Carrey movie of Spotless Mind, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, was the last movie that we watched. So I'm like, how can I forget that?
All right.
But
Yeah.
movies can be a very interesting way of learning because not only are they creative, they're fun to watch. They open up your right brain. So it's a balance between the left and right brain. And I think if you're as, for all of you all, if you're as lucky as I am, that I have a peer group with whom I can discuss this, create a peer group of your own and have discussions on movies that will open up so many concepts for you.
Yeah.
And in this time, you have that time also, right? We have
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
little more time in comparison to all the other times. And if you want to join my peer group, you can let me know that too. We'll have a discussion and we'll join that.
Wonderful. Yeah, you guys all should join. You guys should join in. I should join too.
Okay. So the next question, Zach, is that it's a little broad, but I mean, see how you want to take it. It asks that what's the best method of manifestation,
It's the
or
best
let's
method.
say what is the best one advice for manifestation?
Hmm. You know that it's going to be a little bit of an individual thing because different
Right.
processes will work a little bit different for different people. But what I will say is, I mean, obviously visualization never hurts, but also a lot of people worry that okay, I'm not a very visual person, but you can just feel
Hmm.
it. I'm more of a feeling person too. I don't see it so much. Um, so it also kind of depends on where you are on the subject. Obviously, resist. Here, I'll give you guys a really cool. Actually, I have not released this to the world yet, but I'll give it to you guys here. This exercise. This will
Yay!
be. This could be worth a lot for a lot of people. So you guys are hearing it first. Here's what you can do. You can take a subject, and hopefully I'm explaining this well. I haven't had to explain this too much yet. I've just been doing this with some private clients to some
Guys,
amazing
please
results.
have. Sorry, I just want to let everybody know that Zach is saying this for the first time over here. So please put all your attention over here. I would say, in fact, invite your friends. And yeah, please, Zach, go ahead. And thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, happy to do it. Well, I think especially during this time, this can be a really amazing exercise. So what you want to do is you want to, and jump in so I'm more clear as well too. You know, ask me questions so I can
Sure.
say this clearly. So what you want to do is, okay, so you take a subject, right? Say it's relationships, and then you say, okay, on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being the worst emotion I can possibly feel, to 10 being the most blissful, you know, feeling I can ever feel. How do I feel about this subject? And maybe at first you're like, oh, it's a 7. But if it's something you've had for a long time, you want to take a second to really feel deep within. You know, most time I'll have people be like, oh, it's 7. And then I'm like, wait, don't jump to it quite yet. Just feel it. And oftentimes they'll be like, oh, wait, it's like a 2 or it's a 3. Yeah. And we just want to honestly feel where it is. And if you were to close your eyes and imagine a little, you can imagine like a little readout or a little screen in front of you and a dial, like a little knob. And so say it's 2, you know, you feel 2 out of 10. And in your readout, your little screen says, okay, you know, 2.0. And then you turn the knob up 0.1. So then you're at 2.1. And then you can feel it. Okay, am I at 2.1 now? Yes. Okay, now I'm at 2.1. Then you want to turn up the emotion a little bit more. Okay, 2.2. All right. And then you go, okay, I'm going to try 2.3. Oh, wait. It's still kind of at 2.2. Okay, stay at 2.2 until it feels like ready to do 2.3. What happens is every time you move up a little bit, you release some resistance, and you release some resistance. And a lot of people even cry when they get to the higher numbers. You want to get it up to 10, and then you want to stay at 10 for at least, I would even try to do it for 5 minutes. Try to keep it at 10 for 5 minutes. You just move it up just a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. And you'll feel so much lighter. One of my clients just like burst into tears because they felt like their heart was so open. It's an emotion they never felt before. Once they got to 10, they said, wow, this is, really powerful. And, and I hope it is for you guys too.
Yes.
So yes.
I mean, why don't a couple of you try it right now or maybe later and write to Zach or write to me. And this is an amazing tip, Zach, because often what you hear everywhere else is that you're supposed to feel 10 already. So people go into a limbo that I'm not feeling 10. I will never be able to manifest anything.
Right.
Because I remember that time when I got in touch with you, there were people who were telling me, just become positive. I'm like, if I could become that, I would not ask you.
Right. Right.
Like,
because
I'm
you
not
can't go
happy
from
to be
2
negative
to
or whatever.
10. Right. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, and plus you're being observant of your own feelings. It's not like you're taking a huge leap and faking it and not even feeling it and then wondering why am I not manifesting? Well, as you mentioned, that's because the feeling is not real.
Yeah, right. And yeah, and so many people try to jump up so fast. And a lot of people are already there, so they can see it very obviously. Well, why don't you just be positive about it? But if you have that resistance, you're not able to do that. And so that's why I developed this exercise. And also another important tip I wanted to give people, do it kind of for the pleasure of it. Don't, a lot of times, including myself, sometimes I want to rush. Okay, I want to get right to 10. But instead, we want to enjoy every little step along it because it will release more resistance that way. It'll be more pleasurable, and it will have a lot bigger impact. Sometimes we rush, we don't get it all.
Right.
Yeah. And so, so you can take a subject like money or your finances or, your job, your work life, and then you just tune it up slowly, little bit by little bit. Maybe it takes you 15 or 20 minutes, maybe a half hour. And if it feels really good, stay at that 10. And if at any point it feels like pushing, just tone it back, or if it really feels like you can't move forward, just come back later. There's no reason to force it. Be gentle with yourself and have fun with it.
Yeah, I think Sarah here tried. She says that while she did, she could feel the resistance. So now you know that where you are on the meter and take baby steps as Zach mentioned. And if you feel that it doesn't come to you, because there are certain people who could be kinesthetic, there could be some who are visual, some who are auditory. So you can use whichever thing that you want to. A lot of us can associate a color with that feeling.
Yeah.
Or a size with that feeling or a picture. So, but it's a beautiful technique, and we often use it in neuro-linguistic programming also. But you just said it out so easily, and I think it's very easy to, the way you put it across, it is very easy for people to understand how to do it. A lot of you can even put, temperature to it, like hot, warm, lukewarm. And Zach, what do you suggest? We begin with those things or that area of our life where we do not probably have the maximum resistance. So say for example, if we are we've just had a breakup and we want to be in another relationship, let's say we don't start with the relationship and then try this technique on something else like abundance or some other thing.
It might be good to try it on something that you want that's not in a super resistant place. You're right, and I think that's a good suggestion. First crack out of the box, because it's like picking up the guitar and trying to learn the hardest song right away.
And then wondering, and then thinking it's so tough, and then giving it up. Not knowing that you probably it's like you're not cutting yourself slack, and you're just once again in a different way, but you're running from A to Z.
Right, exactly, and that's the thing too. Nothing might happen right away. You're just going to feel different too. And it's kind of like, you know, going to the gym. Your first time or two, there's not going to be that big of a difference.
Right.
And but you'll feel very different. And so how do you release the resistance? By doing this exercise. Every time you go a little step up, you're going to release some resistance. And you do another small little step up, you're going to release a little resistance. And you do another little step up, you release a little more. And yeah, but like you said, be easy with yourself. Listen to yourself. What's easiest? What feels right? Follow your intuition. Maybe you'll be guided to do some subject and not another one. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, it's gonna take some time, but yeah.
Yeah. And thank you so much for, I'm sure it will help a lot of people who have joined in here. In fact, for a lot of you, if you're watching this, I would also suggest that, you go and tell this technique to other friends and family members of yours, because I think this is a time you can totally show your kindness, help others manifest things in life, and support them too, because the way you are getting supported right now, with Zach being here, other people around you deserve it as well. So just spread the word about this technique and guide people to get to his channel, because he has a lot of other tips and tricks posted over there.
Thank you.
Also, Zach, somebody over here asked that how do they get into that? So even though it is connected with the, how not to resist, but how do we learn letting go? It's kind of how to learn detachment, but still, I think it has a different flavor, just a little different flavor. How do you learn how to let go?
Yeah, that's true, and letting go is important too. Because if you're holding on to something a lot, you know, that creates a lot of resistance as well.
Yeah.
So letting go, is the best way to describe it. Well, one thing I will say, because a lot of people ask about this, a lot of people have a lot of trouble with this, is if you can feel happy without it, you know, it's gonna come much faster. And so being upset that it's not here, that's kind of like the ultimate of not letting go. And so, but
Mm.
if we can be happy without it and say, okay, if this never comes, I'm good. You know, if
Yeah.
this never comes, I'm good. You've let go. And that's what we want to kind of move toward. How about you? I'm sure you have some tips to help people as well.
Well, I think, one is of course this, which you mentioned, that how to be happy with the now, with what you really have right now in comparison to, where you want to be. And a lot of other things which you mentioned in the beginning. I think I saw your video also, that how to appreciate in the given moment what you do have. Like one is to not attach your current state of mind with what you don't have, but also to look at, just focus a little, change your focus a little, and consider what you do have in relation to the same aspect. For example, a lot of people get in touch with me in terms of having insecurities in terms of money, specifically at this time. So one thing which I tell them is that, think about it, you still have money enough to give me a call, a message, or have food on your plate. There are people out there, unfortunately, who are dependent on others to have their food also. So not that I'm saying that compare yourself with others, but just be happy with the that you have a roof under you, you have a safety of the roof, you have the luxury of being on the internet and getting in touch with people around, being on this live, being on other. In fact, to even think about it, that how do I manifest? There are certain people out there who are trying to figure out how to survive, and here you are
Right.
wanting that plus one more thing,
Yeah.
right? So how
Having
to be
that
grateful in
perspective,
that?
and appreciate,
Exactly.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it in a sense, you know, if you were to go back 30 years ago, in order to watch something like this and to have the
Yeah.
internet and to have a smartphone, it would cost like $1 million, you
Oh
know,
yes.
to have like this level of quality. And so in that sense, I mean, we are a lot richer, you know, than we realize. If we can appreciate and see that we have things that we already are rich in, find anything that you can feel rich about and appreciate that, and you can grow it. A little trick for money, that has always worked is whatever you appreciate, you multiply.
Hmm.
And you can appreciate even something that isn't yet. You can appreciate the idea of something, But say you even get like a small amount of money, you know, and you know, even if it's tiny, you find like you know, something on the street, you know, a penny or
Yes.
something very small. If you can appreciate that, anything that comes
Right.
so much, it will multiply. Just like you said before, you know, when you start putting that energy out, it multiplies. This one really works. They even had this video on Mind Valley talking about arigato money. I don't know if you saw that
Oh
video.
yes, I think Mind Valley did that.
Mind Valley, yeah, Mind Valley. Yeah, have this arigato money clip, and basically every time you spend money or you receive money, you appreciate it, you give thanks for it. And think about it, thanks and appreciation, that's close to a 10 on that subject. And so that's why
Yes.
that works. And so for a lot of people, it's hard to appreciate because they might feel like a 2 or a 3 or 4, you know.
Yeah.
But if we can find a way to give thanks for it, to appreciate it as it comes in or goes out, it can make us more secure. It's always worked for me. I should use it more often. I can be
No,
a little
I
bit
mean,
for
right. And I used to use it. I mean, I heard about this also, and I used it specifically. They said that, first of all, don't try as much as possible not to keep bill spending, because that psychologically gives you a feeling of lack when you have bill spending. Let's say the due date, or when you keep getting the due date reminder, and as soon as you pay that bill, because a lot of these alerts come on the phone. As soon as you pay that bill, be thankful to the universe of giving you an opportunity of paying that bill also, because you were able to pay it because you had the money and you used the facility. So it's not like you are I mean, you're surviving on the basics. You're actually taking a luxury for which you have the propensity of paying as well. You have the
sure.
money of paying as well.
Yeah, yeah, and you're right, and yeah, and
And sorry, one more thing I want to
yeah,
add here,
please.
that as soon as, you know how it happens, as soon as you receive an alert of salary, probably instead of thinking immediately that, okay, now I have these expenses to take care of and I will be able to give it, first say thank you for receiving that salary. Or when you receive money for consultation, I always write back to my people that thank you received with gratitude.
Yeah,
And
that's
that just,
beautiful.
in those days, it just multiplies, I think, my receiving capability and capacity.
Yeah, yeah, great, wonderful. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I wonder if any of you guys have any more questions or
Yeah.
yeah, is there
There were
anything
a
we can
couple
help you
of
guys
them.
with?
They asked me, okay, so how to reduce resistance, we've already spoken about.
Hmm.
But I think Insta has eaten a couple of those questions which were asked earlier. Shubhangi, you had asked a question. If you are still around, can you just copy paste it or type it again? Uh, or let me just keep sending them love and blessings. Yeah, so thank you so much for everybody who
Yeah, thank you, all
supported.
of you guys.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so guys, I'm not able to find the previous questions. If you have any other question, we have Zach is being very generous with his time. So if you have any more questions, please type it in the comment section. We'll pick it up. And in the meanwhile, let me see if I had got something else also. Okay. Or is it that all of yours LOA related queries are sorted?
Yeah, that would be good. That would be great.
Yeah, in which
Um,
case you can start sending us experiences.
right. Oh, and
Yeah.
someone said that this helps a lot. You're very welcome, and I'm glad this is yeah working well with all this going together.
Okay. Okay. Angela asked, she says that, what is it that? Okay. Sir, there was this guy with whom I thought it's love, but he says, but what is that? He says he doesn't love me anymore. What to do? Okay.
Okay. Well, you know, probably going back to the previous story that I was telling about. Okay. Well, actually, maybe this is a good time to talk about something very important. Most people, when they talk about love,
Oh,
are
okay.
not.
I'm sorry,
Mhm.
Zach,
Okay.
sorry.
Sure.
This one is showing me this thing that there are only 20 seconds left. I think
Oh,
it's like
okay.
a hour that we can
It's
do,
gonna
and after which
finish.
it gets cut off.
Okay. All right.
Ah.
That's
So maybe we can pick it up later or whenever Zach has time
okay.
next, because it will just cut off now.